We also want to mention, too, that Norma Holland is off today, normally filling this seat, and we miss her laughter and all that.
And we're about to see her. Pit bulls and parolees are together again. Norma, that's a terrible segue. Pit bulls and parolees are together again. Norma's going to interview somebody about that. Oh, they're the focus of a show on it. Norma's going to kill me. I love Norma. They're the focus of a show on Animal Planet. The founder of an animal sanctuary takes pit bulls that need rehab and puts them with the parolees who need redemption of their own.
Yeah, the show is in its second season now. Norma talked with the show's creator, Tia Torres, beginning with how she came up with the idea.
You know, it's so funny because I get that question a lot, and to me it just makes such perfect sense. I'm like, why not? The two just look good together. They work together. They both have, especially for the guys, the parolees, you know, they very much relate to this breed. You know, they look scary. The rest of society perceives them as being scary. Both the dogs and the parolees are constantly having to prove themselves. Mm-hmm. But what's great about the parolees is that they do recognize that the dogs are there not because they necessarily did something wrong. The parolees do understand that, you know, they went to prison for doing something wrong, doing something bad, and now they're asking for forgiveness. And the dogs give that forgiveness in a split second. The dogs are unconditional. And that's the first step to healing, the first step for these guys to get confidence in that they can be productive members of society. So it's a great marriage. It's a wonderful marriage.
Why do you think pit bulls specifically have gotten such a bad rap? I mean, you know, the people who love them and own them say they're fantastic animals, fantastic family dogs, but there's a lot of people who fear them because they've been involved in some pretty nasty things.
Well, there's many answers to that. You know, the first is the easiest. It's a numbers game. You know, when you have, there's more pit bulls in this country than any other breed of dog. They're the most popular breed of dog, both for good people and, unfortunately, for bad people. I mean, you don't hear about Labradors being owned by gang members and drug dealers. So right away, the pit bull's got a rough start. And when you have people like this owning these dogs and just abusing the hell out of them and just neglecting them, you know, a living being can only take so much, you know, before it just has to lash out. They can only take a beating for so long. And this is what these dogs have to endure. And if not for the Michael Vick case, I don't think the rest of the world would have gotten it. And after the Michael Vick case broke and people got to see what this superhero did to these dogs, and yet these dogs came out unscathed, you know, mentally. They've become wonderful family dogs. Some have gone on to become therapy dogs. The proof's in the pudding. I mean, how do you dispute that? You can't. And these dogs are just bred to be resilient. I mean, think about it. What other breed of dog can you as a human being physically take, throw him in a dog fight, have him get mutilated and mauled, and then the dog turns around and licks you in the face and like, thank you, you know, I still love you. I love you for what you just did to me. They're so forgiving, and they are their own worst enemy.
Yeah, well, yeah, you mentioned that, you know, and I think that's kind of interesting because the men, when they're on parole, they can be their own worst enemy too. So give us a sense of kind of what kind of drama will unfold in this next season with the dogs and the parolees.
This season we have a new group of guys, and we got some youngsters, which kind of spices things up a little bit. You know, when they're young, they're just, they think they know it all. So, oh boy, between them and my kids, I don't know which one drives me crazier. You know, we have some guys that are a little hard. You know, we have one particular guy who has a really rough background, and you watch the dogs just soften him up. You watch the dogs teach him how to become a dad again to his children. And the guys get to travel around the country and do some really emotional adoption stories with us, and they get to be more involved. It's really, this season is going to be absolutely, I'm going to prepare you now. Get out your box of Kleenex. It's going to be a heart-wrenching season. Yeah.
Is the moral of this show... Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, is the moral of this show never judge someone by the way they look, never judge an animal by the way that they look, and that everyone deserves a second chance?
That is exactly That is exactly what this show is all about. It's not to be judged. It's if you're going to judge me, judge me for who I am, not what I am. And, that's okay, because if you judge these guys for who they are, they're some of the nicest, loyal, compassionate guys I've ever met. And don't get me wrong, I'm not naive, I'm not stupid here. Not every one of them is the perfect, example of a perfect guy. But I would say for the most part, we have a really good success rate. And yes, we've had a couple of guys slip, but that's being human. People that are not on parole do that. But I'm trying to teach these guys not to judge others, and yet here they are being judged,
Yeah, right.
So it's, they're having to kind of step above everybody else and just bite their tongue at times and just go, okay, I'm going to remember what you're teaching me, Tia. It's heartwarming to watch the journeys that these guys go on with the dogs.
Yeah, and what ends up happening with the dogs? Do some of the men get to keep the dogs and they go home with the parolees eventually? Hopefully the parolees get their life kind of back together?
Yeah, and that's actually a really good question. We don't really allow the guys to adopt the dogs quite yet. We want them to get themselves on the right track. We want them to be good fathers, good sons, good, whatever. We want them to get their life straight first. Let's get your what together. You come to work every day, and they do have their favorite dogs. Don't get me wrong.
I would think it'd be hard to let go. Yeah, I mean, looking at your dog there, it's hard not to love that face. He's gone through a few interviews this morning, so now he's behaving. A minute ago, he was in my lap, and you couldn't even, I was like looking at the camera like this. So he's, and here, I've only had him about a year. He's like a 9-year-old dog. I mean, here's beautiful.
Living proof that you don't have to go out and get a puppy. I've had him 1 year, and he's a great, my buddy.
He's beautiful. Tia, thank you so much. You've got such a wonderful story, and you obviously have a lot of heart. It is evident. You've got a lot of heart.
Thank you so much.
We wish you the best of luck, and with your men and your dogs. There you go. How about that?
Thank you
the
so
men
much.
and the animals.
Wish me luck with my kids.
Hey,
so that's
that
what I need
too.
to luck with.
That too, honey. That too.